Welcome back, everybody. It's Denise DiGrigoli here on the HAN Network live every Tuesday with The Drive. At The Drive, we believe it's how you fuel your mind, your body, your spirit that ultimately creates the lifestyle you live. We're so thankful that we get to spend this 45 minutes with you. Hopefully you're fueling your life well and you leave motivated and inspired. We start every week with a mindful minute, something to kind of shift lanes, get us to think about our lives a little bit differently. And this week, my quote is, where's the quote? Don't fear failure. Fear being in the exact same place next year as you are today. And whoever the unknown person wrote it with great wit. We're talking about transition, self-doubt, entrepreneurship, and work-life balance. You know, we're all going through something. It could be a transition, a life change, an illness, a loss of a loved one, starting a business, ending a business, anything. So what makes us hesitate? What makes that self-doubt creep in and really stir up emotions that almost paralyze us? We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about that today, but I can tell you a couple solutions that I've used as an entrepreneur over the years. Number one, you absolutely need to surround yourself with positive thinking, motivated people. People that are kind of will support you authentically. Number two, it's about, in my opinion, your morning routine. Exercise, good breakfast, the things we've talked about before. Of course, I like you to write in your daily drive motivational statements, I am statements, statements that kind of steer your thoughts. I believe that when you steer your thoughts, you kind of steer your actions. So thoughts become things, as our good friend Mike Dooley says. I believe that your morning routine is critical. It sets the tone of your day so that when fear-based thoughts creep in, perhaps they don't take root and you can shift lanes easily and effortlessly. My challenge has always been every week when we tune in to find ways that can motivate our viewers, shift their lanes, get them out of their comfort zone, get them back in their comfort zone with little thoughts. You know, sometimes we ask our family, the people that work for us, the people that work together with us to do things like change that habit. Your life will be so much better. Why don't you try this? It'll make things better. But when it comes to ourselves, sometimes even though we have great advice, we sort of paralyze ourselves with these fear-based thoughts. If you do small baby steps each and every day, and you surround yourself with good people, I think those baby steps build into incremental success and movement towards your goals. That's the Mindful Minute here on the Daily Drive. We're going to be back with an incredible change of format. I've got a guest who's a former Westporter, now living in North Carolina, and she's going to share her entrepreneurial journey with us that involves some pretty heavy twists and turns. And maybe through her lens, we're going to find our own epiphany. If you'd like, tweet us at HAN Network CT or at Denise DiGrigoli. Use the hashtag Daily Drive and tweet us your questions. We're going to look forward to sharing this time. I think it's about sharing the love, the knowledge, and the drive that moves us all forward. We'll be right back.
At the Milford Bank, we offer an extensive selection of lending products and services to meet virtually any need. Submit your application online in our Mortgage Web Center. Start to finish, you can apply for a loan in as little as 10 minutes. Our knowledgeable and helpful staff are available to meet with you at your convenience. To learn more about what we can do for you, stop by one of our Milford Bank offices or visit us at milfordbank.com. The Milford Bank, always there. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Did you know heart attacks and strokes are the leading cause of death in America? Protect the health of you and your loved ones. Talk to a doctor about heart disease. Hi, I'm Dr. David Pazer with ProHealth Physicians, encouraging you to stay informed about health matters that affect you.
ProHealth Physicians is on the pulse of social media to share information about health and nutrition with the community. Get up-to-the-minute alerts, including ProHealth Physicians news and upcoming events. Connecticut's leading group of primary care doctors is just a click away.
Let our satisfied customers tell it.
I have called Mr. Handyman for every reason, every occasion, every broken item, every leak. They have bailed me out on many occasions, and I would recommend them to anyone.
For any project, large or small.
MrHandymanCT.com.
Pizza to satisfy even the most demanding critics. Wilton Pizza.
Family and Children's Aid has been serving the community since 1809 and is now the largest outpatient children's mental health care provider in Western Connecticut. Our innovative services include providing shelter to homeless moms and children, substance abuse intervention, mental health counseling, and foster and adoptive services, among others. Our goal is to provide individuals and families a safe haven and hope for a brighter future. Find out more about us at fcaweb.org and call our Danbury campus at 203-748-5689.
I'm John Kovach. I'm a newspaper editor. I'm a high school football coach. I'm a television presenter. And I want you to love fishing as much as I do. Tune in to Yankee Fisherman, Thursdays at 1 on the HAN network. It's like going to the tackle shop without leaving your office. I'm John Kovach. I'm a newspaper editor. I'm a high school football coach. I'm a television presenter. And I want you to love fishing as much as I do. Tune in to Yankee Fisherman, Thursdays at 1 on the HAN network. It's like going to the tackle shop without leaving your office.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Denise DiGrigoli every Tuesday here on the HAN network with the motivational talk show called The Drive. We seek to bring people, places, ideas, and organizations together that move us all forward mindfully and consciously. And we're talking today about transition, entrepreneurship, and what it takes maybe to juggle all those things through trials and tribulations in our lives, that work-life balance that we all seek. Is there a secret sauce? Today, we're chatting with Mary Elizabeth Peterson, who had a corporate career and transitioned into being a well-known, more than emerging artist with works all across the country in museums, galleries, and even represented on Pottery Barn. What I love about Mary Elizabeth is she's got flexibility, tenacity, versatility in her vision. In other words, she's been thrown a lot of curveballs and nothing really, at least from what I can tell, gets her down. I'd like you to welcome Mary Elizabeth to The Drive as she shares her passionate journey with us. Are you there, Mary Elizabeth?
I'm here. Hi, Denise. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on all the way from North Carolina today.
Down in Charlotte.
Down in Charlotte. All right. So you are a former Westporter. Let's just, in spirit of HAN, HAN Network, we want to make sure that people know you are a local lady. Take us back to your corporate days and your journey forward. I want everyone to get a little window into your life before we start sharing our theories on work-life balance.
Okay.
There's the beautiful photo of you.
Thank you. There was a time in my life, shortly after I graduated from college, where I entered the corporate world and entered as a writer primarily, and very quickly established myself as a great strategic thinker and somebody that just had an ability to come up with a lot of creative problem solutions. And very soon I ended up as the Director of Communications at Aetna in the Financial Services Division. And that sort of evolved very organically, and I became head of internal communications and the speechwriter to the president of the financial division there. So I got at a very young age a lot of exposure to very high level management of a very large corporation, and was off to a great start in my career, and by and large content with it.
But then something happened.
But then a major bomb got dropped in my lap, and that little bomb was that I was discovered to have a birth defect deep inside my brain that was going to require 11 hours of life-threatening brain surgery.
Wow.
And yeah.
Talk about a windstorm.
That really knocked the wind out of me. You know, that was one of those days where you're like, this is the worst news I think I've ever heard.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah.
Now, were you married at the time?
I was recently married to my husband. I had recently moved from New England to the Washington, D.C. area, and was preparing for that surgery. And what happened that really transformed my life was that with brain surgery of that caliber, they save the advanced medical directives for the last 5 minutes before you go into the surgical suite. And
so in other words, they make you sign off on what you want to do in case you don't make it 5 seconds before you go under the knife?
Exactly.
Oh, that's so relaxing.
Oh, yes. Well, and they do it very deliberately because they don't want you to think too long or too hard about your own mortality at that point. They really just want you to write down your gut reaction. And on that piece of paper, I wrote down something that had absolutely nothing to do with the life that I was leading at that point.
Right.
I wrote down, if I cannot paint, pull the plug.
So you weren't an artist at that point. You were this high corporate level person, and you wrote, if I can't paint, pull the plug?
Pull the plug.
Wow. That was a kind of a weird message, right?
That was a very, very strange message. But I felt that it was a true epiphany, you know, that it was really coming from a deeper place inside myself.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't entirely unconnected because I had been involved in painting and art since I was 9 years old.
Uh-huh.
But it really was not part of my day-to-day existence.
So I met you later on in life when we had our gallery in Southport, and of course you were emerging, having spent time finding those skills. I believe you were in an artist residency that you had received a grant from in Vermont, and you had already dipped your toe into the world of fine art. Is that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I raised twins as a stay-at-home mom for about 10 years, and then that freed up time for me to jump into my art profession full-time.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I have a quick question. So why, getting married and raising your twins, you've got this sort of message floating in the back of your mind, when I get to do my art, I want to live kind of message, but you kind of table it while you're being the outstanding mom to twins that you are. Is that right?
Exactly. I woke up alive after the brain surgery, sold my business, went to art school, graduated from art school, and 4 months after I completed art school, I gave birth to my twins.
Wow.
So I literally rearranged my whole life to have art at its center, but then I had to put it on pause because I had these 2 infants that really needed me.
Were you defeated at that point, or were you just, how do you deal with this? Because the whole show, it's interesting, and I'm Twitter questions that we got, and some of the Twitter feedback that we got. One of the pieces of feedback that we got is from one of our regular viewers that said, you know, work-life balance is a myth. It just doesn't happen. You know, change is in constant motion, and it's more like the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. In other words, you just kind of have to roll with it. You know, change is constant, and we're constantly seeking balance. So my question to you was, were you mad that all of a sudden what you had been pursuing was put on hold? Like, what did you do to accept the change, and was there any balance, or did it not matter?
There wasn't a whole lot of balance, but what I noticed for myself, well, I had an undying belief that I would get back to the art when the time was right, and I didn't really let anything dissuade me of that belief. There were days that were long and difficult with infant twins, and I remember thinking that what was going to keep my head in the game and what was going to keep me sane was me doing something creative every day. And sometimes that creative thing was how I set the table for dinner.
So you took it back to the super basics and found joy in simpler things.
I took it back to the basics and thought, if I can do one thing today that's kind of creative, that sort of, if I get scratched,
yeah,
I'm going to be okay. I knew that I needed a creative outlet in every single day. And unfortunately, in those years, that outlet was not going to be sitting for 20 minutes or 45 minutes and drawing or painting. It was going to have to be something else. It was going to have to be 5 minutes here or 10 minutes there. But as long as I could get in that creative thinking and be in that creative mindset for some period of time every single day, I was able to move on and live with having a dream somewhat deferred.
So you and I talked a lot about self-doubt. I think not only perhaps do women trying to juggle it all, whether, you're hearing from the book Lean In or Option B or whatever that is going on right now, we all have self-doubt. And I think especially as entrepreneurs, because we're pulled to be here, we're pulled to follow our passions, we want to follow our passions, we have obligations over there. So while you were finding gratitude in the small things like setting the dinner table, what were you doing with the self-doubt? Like what pushed you through every day? What made you say, okay, my life isn't balanced right now, who cares?
I think having a near-death experience really put my life priorities in order. I knew that art needed to be at the center, and I felt very fervently that someday it would, and that it wasn't maybe going to happen that day, but it was going to happen.
So you had an inner knowing.
I had like a sense of inner strength around that. I think the other thing, whether you're an entrepreneur or an artist, I think rejection, self-doubt, those things are a part of our daily existence. And, sometimes we are taking those messages from inside ourselves, and sometimes they're coming from outside of us. But, they're coming. And I think one little practice that I've always maintained when I have been filled with self-doubt about my direction, or about the quality or the quantity of my work, or something like that, I've always tried to take a few moments, step away from it, and see if I am missing a larger picture.
So you have a form of reflection that you integrate in your day, and I think many leaders do. I think if you actually take time to reflect, and you better know yourself, then you can lead better. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you an example of something. When I turned to my art, in a career sense, for the first time, for the first time I had time for making art, and then I had the predicament of how to market art. Unfortunately, my timing was not great. I came into the art market at a point in time where the art market was really in flux.
Right.
And I was literally, and I had to step back so I could see this. But when I stepped back, I realized that I was literally, as an artist, I was straddling the old art market world, which was the world of a brick and mortar gallery, where as an artist, the way you sell your work is through gallery representation.
Right.
I was straddling that world with the coming world of online marketing, online art sales, all of that. And for a period of about 2 years, I went through a great deal of frustration around why couldn't I get gallery representation? Why wasn't I being able to sell in the traditional sense? And what I realized was it had less to do with the quality of my work, the marketability of my work. It had more to do with larger global forces And the larger global forces, the larger reality was that the entire art world was changing very, very radically.
So what I hear from that is be open to changing your thinking. And from a business perspective, be open to and always learning, right? It's not only just about staying ahead of current trends and, being in the know around who, quote unquote, the right people, because who are the right people, really? They change from moment to moment. I hear, being open-minded enough to allow the circumstances to change your approach and then be flexible. That's what I said about you in my email promotion this morning, your versatility, your flexibility. So our director is giving me the signal that we have to take a quick break. We're going to be back, folks, in just about 2 minutes, and Mary Elizabeth and I are going to talk more about her journey as we also answer some of the questions I've received through email and on Twitter. If you have a question you want to ask us, please tweet us at HN Network CT or at Denise DiGrigoli. Use the hashtag Daily Drive so we can find it quickly, and we'll be right back. It's how you fuel your mind, your body, your spirit that creates your life. Please fuel it well, and we're so thankful that you started here on Tuesdays with us. We'll be right back.
Part of banking well is doing good. That's why, with the support of local community partners, Bankwell has launched the Bankwell Pet Adoption Project to boost awareness about the hundreds of animals in local shelters that need a home. And when you donate to the cause using the Bankwell self-service coin machines, we'll match your donation. For details, visit mybankwell.com/pleaseadoptme. Bank smart, bank local, bank well.
At Budget Blinds, we're in business to frame the light, the day, and the night. So we give you an exclusive combination of high style, expert service, our no surprises pricing, and our no questions asked warranty. We believe that everyone, at every budget, deserves style and service. Isn't that a beautiful place to be?
The new fishing season is fast approaching, so it's time to head over to the dock shop and get your gear in order. We're now offering bait in both Darien and our Westport location. The dock shop can service and repair your rods and reels, spool up new line, and fill any empty space you might have in your tackle box. Whether you're a fisherman, boater, or beach bum, the dock shop is a unique place to shop. The dock shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport, dockshop.com.
Spring has sprung at Walter Stewart's Market, and we're celebrating the new season with fresh takes on spring. From the finest produce around to guaranteed fresh seafood delivered daily by the best local supplier. Not only are we your time-saving one-stop shop for everything you need this season, our personable team is always ready with a helping hand. Shop Stewart's for the best of spring. Find us at 229 Elm Street, New Canaan, or shop online at stewartsmarket.com. At Worcester School, we believe summer is a time for kids to be kids. We provide the safe and nurturing environment for them to find activities that match their interests and allow them to create lasting friendships. Summer at Worcester offers 7 weekly sessions at our Danbury campus from Monday, June 26th through Friday, August 11th for pre-K to grade 8. Find out more about our extended hours, new optional lunch program, and a new low price at summer@worcester.org or 203-830-3921. Summer at Worcester, experience the difference.
Wild Birds Unlimited, your one-stop shop for all your backyard bird hobby needs. Premium bird seed, freshly delivered each week. A great selection of bird feeders, houses, a patented pole system, bird baths, and a vast array of wonderful gifts of whimsy and nature. Visit us at 356 Heights Road in Darien, next to the post office and across from Norotan Heights Railroad Station. Give your day a jumpstart with the latest news, sports, weather, and more on Coffee Break, live on the HAN Network, weekdays at 11 a.m. Connecticut news doesn't get any more local than on Coffee Break.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Denise DiGrigoli here on the HN Network live every Tuesday. You can also find us on demand later. We're talking to Mary Elizabeth Peterson and her journey through some twists and turns, dramatic, unexpected brain surgery, growing her business as an artist, leaving her corporate profession, and being a mom. And we changed the format a little bit this week by asking you to tweet one with the audience now and Mary Elizabeth and get your feedback on this. I'm a mom of 2 daughters, 10 and 13. I've worked a corporate career as a finance assistant in an accounting firm in New York for 20 years. Now in my late 40s, I want to go out on my own as a personal bookkeeper. After so many years in the corporate world, I'm not sure my first steps and what it should be to get my name and my business out there to potential clients. Can you give me some ideas and feedback? I definitely have self-doubt. This comes from Susan in Weston. You want to go or you want me to go?
I'll go.
You go.
I'll tell you, as somebody that's spent a lot of years in corporate marketing at a very high level, and someone that pays attention and reads a lot about a whole variety of topics, I feel like the way the world is moving right now is that we're all going to be hanging our individual shingle.
Yeah, I agree.
I worked in the corporate world long enough to realize that large corporations are really not inherently efficient. They're really not that profitable. And really, you know, unless you're in a very rarefied setting, you're not going to get to feel validated for who you are and what talents you bring to the table. I think self-employment, hanging your own shingle, is a wonderful and direct path to feeling happy every day about what you're doing and making an income. You know, in terms of getting your name out there and making it happen, I wouldn't panic too much. I find that happens organically. If you're any kind of good at what you do, word spreads, it grows very organically. People will find out that you're doing it on your own, and your clients will come to you.
I kind of piggyback that, my practical. Yes, there's going to be days of self-doubt, because when you're used to getting a big paycheck and you go from X to 0, the self-doubt can, and those fears that we talked about in the beginning of the show, can come flailing out like wild dragons. So I say, have like 6 months. The rule of thumb is 6 months expenses. And I agree with you. People will know, especially if you give a little more, sort of over-deliver on your service. And of course, with the onset of social media, what was the old adage? We start with our friends, family, relatives, current clients, business contacts. We tell them we're going out on our own. Maybe we do a couple speaking engagements. We send out the proverbial email note. And I think Mary Elizabeth and I would both agree, Susan, that you just got to start. Like my mindful minute in the beginning said, fear of failure. Well, fear that you'll be in the same place next year. So just start. And know that there's incredible resources that help entrepreneurs, not only locally here in Fairfield County, but across our country. And you can connect with me at DeniseDiGrigoli.com, and I can share more there with you on how to jumpstart that practice. Okay. And here's another question on the heels of that, Mary Elizabeth. Wondering what your thoughts are on social media for promoting a small business. I'm a new recent grad graphic designer looking to grow my freelance business. Thank you, from Brian in Stamford, Connecticut. Oh, what do you think of that? Because you did a lot of social media promoting when you were really getting your artwork known.
Yes. I continue to do a lot of work online. I was very early to the online party. I think it's a good place to be. I think it's a very important, it's probably the single most important component of marketing and getting yourself out there. Some venues are better than others, depending on what your area is. For graphic design in particular, I would strongly recommend being on Instagram rather than Facebook and some of the other platforms.
Why do you say that?
Because I find Instagram to be such a strongly visual field that I think if you're showing portfolio examples and works like that, your work will sell itself there. I feel like that'll really happen. And I also would not hesitate to employ, and Denise, you know about this, I call it Operation Bad Penny. For many years, I used my own marketing strategy of Operation Bad Penny. I went to every business networking, art gallery opening, art show, whatever it was going to take for me to meet as many people as possible. There is no substitute for getting out there and meeting as many people from as many different fields as possible, especially if you're planning on graphic design. It doesn't make sense starting out to limit yourself to one niche. You want to meet people from a wide variety of industries and businesses.
Okay, so now the person
keep popping up like a bad penny.
That person just tweeted back to me and said, but I don't like to network. I have a fear of meeting people. Well, I don't know about that, Brian. I think you've got to get out and do a little face-to-face networking as well, because it can't only be social media online, especially with something service-oriented like art, right, Mary Elizabeth? Yeah. Art, graphic design, service-oriented business that involve creativity, or anything, even doctors need to get out and meet face-to-face, especially in a new practice, because how else will people get your vibe? How else will people know you're available? And what about staying top of mind? There's so much chaos nowadays. To stay top of mind with anybody is excruciating.
Well, and no one that I know or I've ever known particularly enjoys self-promotion.
It's true.
So if it helps you to get over the emotional hurdle of, I have to go out there and self-promote myself, detach yourself from that. You're not promoting yourself. You're promoting what you can do. You're promoting your portfolio. You're promoting your work.
It's a very humble and smart approach.
Go to those events with some examples of your work. That's what's going to sell other people. That's what will take the uncomfortable aspects out of the networking.
Right, and maybe don't lug your portfolio pieces along. No. Maybe have your nifty eye with you and show your new website. That's a great idea, right?
And you're not, then you're not talking about yourself. Then you're showing what you can do. Then you're helping people make a connection.
And I think that's a great suggestion to kind of quelling that self-doubt, because put yourself in a place of helping others, right? And sharing what you can do, as opposed to pontificating or promoting yourself, which some people think of that as. Certainly, I don't think of that like that, but I think many people do. Okay, I have another question that came in anonymously, and I want to read it to you. So I have to put my glasses on. Sorry about that. After 25 years of marriage, I find myself pursuing many more interests, not related, such as spirituality, yoga, and community service. I guess not related to the marriage per se. Should I be spending more time on fostering our marriage or doing the personal interests that help make me a better person in the marriage? Thank you for keeping my question confidential. Well, absolutely. We do what we say, and we keep our word here on The Drive. What do you think, Mary Elizabeth? That's an interesting question, because it talks about self-growth, right? And you certainly went through a lot of transitions. It's talking about that work-life, in this case, marriage-life balance.
Balance, right.
And it's talking about allowing you to be you. My vote is always allow yourself to be you and follow your passions. Now, if you've got a decent marriage, you maybe can tell your partner, I need to do this for myself, because we never grow simultaneously. We kind of all grow at different paths, like leaves on a tree or vines on a tree. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, in any marriage, in any long-term relationship, you are sort of growing, side by side. You're on a parallel path. I think as we get older as women, as our children get older and become more independent to us, independent of us, we get time to look into things that we haven't had time for before. And I think it's really very healthy and important to allow yourself to look into those things. I think if your marriage can handle you doing that kind of growth, I think it's going to make ultimately the marriage better, because you'll be a happier, more content person.
I think you can share your story of transition. A very successful artist, right? All of a sudden, things started to pop for you in the art world, and then you guys got relocated to North Carolina after you just made, great growth here in what good people perceived as the Northeast. Even though you had things happening with Pottery Barn and some national venues, you made that transition, and you made made it so successfully. Do you want to tell people how you did that and what was sort of your chutzpah behind it?
Well, I when I entered into the art market, I was very intense about it. I mean, overly so. I mean, I would say that I was really trying to shoehorn certain things into happening, and sort of interestingly enough, the universe threw out a corporate relocation. My gut reaction to that was, oh no, this is really going to kill the momentum that I had begun. I had begun licensing my work before that move, and I wasn't really sure what impact that was going to have. I wasn't sure how the move was going to impact my ability to be in the studio and making work. And then, of course, I was leaving a network of support and champions for my work that I had built, that I had built up over a number of years. I didn't expect that it was going to completely go away, but I expected that some of those relationships were going to be slightly diminished because of distance. So when I came down here, I decided to take a different tact. I decided not to push as hard as I had earlier in the career. I decided to just kind of observe for a little while, see what this local art market looked like, see what sort of galleries, what sort of opportunities reached out to me. And that was really the first time in my professional life that I ever really allowed for that to happen. I had always been more of a go-getter. I was always the one going and making the connection rather than letting the connection come in to my world. So I've done it both ways. I have to say that the latter way has been far more successful and far more pleasing. Since sort of relaxing my intensity and letting my work speak for itself, I've had my work used in major corporate projects, hotels, businesses, that kind of thing. I've hung work in a variety of locations. I'm now more fully licensed than I could have ever envisioned. My work is being used very frequently in Hollywood set designs, in major retailer catalogs, and that kind of thing.
If the viewers,
that all happened because I wasn't pushing.
So you were allowing. I think. This is interesting because a gentleman that was on my show, who I'm very his business ethics and the way he conducts himself, Randy Weiss of RD Flooring out of Manhattan, said, "We all have self-doubt. Some deal with it better than others. My view is it'll either be fuel you need to move forward and it'll act as adrenaline, or it becomes a depressant that causes us to get immobilized. Secret sauce and silver bullet solutions are never just one thing. Secret sauce is business starts with good leadership that keeps their eye on the prize, and when adversity comes up, you tackle it and move forward. It's never just one thing." And whether it's, in a corporate environment, or you could use that metaphor in your own home, right? When adversity comes up, you tackle it and move on. So I think, as we're kind of coming to a close on the drive today, what I hear from you and some of the other people that have chimed in with us is that you need to be, number one, allowing. You need to be open-minded. You need to be flexible. You need to have versatility in your vision. In other words, you can't be with the tunnel vision. And it's, I've always said this, it's not what life does to you, it's what you do with life. Would you agree? Yeah?
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I mean, there are opportunities here that have sprouted up that have changed my whole definition of what successful is.
Well, what is your, before we jump off the line, what is your definition? We do have one more question. Hopefully we can get to it. But what is your definition of success? And I'm going to tell you mine.
Oh, boy. Well, there was a time in my life where I thought success equated to me having my art hung in a museum or hung in a gallery. I thought that was going to make me feel very good and very fulfilled. What I realized is that I don't really need those broad sweeping gestures. I have really refined my artistic output to a point where I feel like I'm making work that shifts people into a more positive mindset. And I am just as tickled to sell a painting to somebody that's going to hang that painting in their living room or their bedroom and whatever, and it's going to make them feel really good when they wake up tomorrow morning. I'm just as tickled about that sale as I am to hanging in one of the poshest hotels in Mayfair, London. I mean, that just feels really, really good to me.
So for really good feelings from Mary Elizabeth, can we send them to your website, www.maryelizabethpeterson.com?
Yes.
And can they follow you on Facebook?
They can follow me on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram, and I sell my work on SachiArt.com.
Oh, there she is, right there. They've blasted a beautiful image of your website up. You can connect with Mary Elizabeth there, and I want to just share one last question as we wrap it up. It says, "Hi, my husband and I recently started a business together. We work well together. However, sometimes we have major disagreements on certain issues. I've heard you work in business with your husband. Can you give us any advice? We prefer to be kept anonymous." Okay, I understand.
Oh, I understand.
First of all, I'll give you the funny answer. Love him with his warts because he loves yours too. And then I'll give you my business answer. I'm always mesmerized at people when they see Troy and I that say, "Oh my God, you work with your husband. I could never do that." And I think, well, what did you fall in love with? When you fell passionately in love, you couldn't stop dating each other, seeing each other, running around with each other. So
couldn't get enough of him.
You couldn't get enough of him. Right. Is it hectic at times? Absolutely. Is it crazy at times? Absolutely. Is it got its epiphanies? 100%. I think with anything, as I started the show with, be around like-minded people that support your efforts. Doesn't mean they're going to always agree with every single thing you've said or you with them, but be around somebody you really respect and that you respect their ideals, their morals, their values. You've seen it on the show before. We practice conscious capitalism in our business. We try to do the right thing. My husband has an incredible saying, it's not what you do when everybody's watching, it's what you do when no one's watching. And so we live by certain tenets in our life, and it's definitely got its ups and downs, but being an entrepreneur does. And at least you're with someone you can trust. So I guess I start with trust and value and humor. Have a lot of humor.
Have a lot of humor.
A lot of humor.
I think a lot of humor helps. Yeah. I think really embracing and acknowledging the things that your partner does well, that maybe you don't. Having a lot of respect for that.
Oh, Mary Elizabeth, I don't do anything not well.
Well, you have a few talents.
Few warts.
My husband will literally say to me, "I'm not good at that. I respect and I understand that you are better at that particular thing than I am. I'm going to let you run with the ball on that." And I reciprocate.
Well, this is a much longer conversation to move us into the next show, which we're going to come back and maybe talk about moms at work and moms at work with their spouses. I think we're going to have to call it a wrap for today. It's been an absolute delight to hear your voice and share this time with you. I hope that you'll join us back on the Daily Drive, maybe on the Working Moms panel, and wish you every great success in your new digs in North Carolina. That's a wrap for today, everybody. It's Denise DiGrigoli live here on the Daily Drive on the HN Network every Tuesday. We seek to bring together people, places, ideas, and organizations that move us forward mindfully, consciously, and in many cases with a little humor. If you like the show, please share it. If you'd like to be on it, you can tweet us at HN Network CT or at DeniseDiGrigoli.com. We'll see you next week with J.P. Hernandez of the American Dream Cleaning Company and how he uses conscious capitalism to move his company forward by not only supporting his employees, but their families in unique educational ways. Thanks so much, everybody. See you next week.